Had a few technical issues, so I'm just trying to get our expert in, so our apologies there.
Yeah, it's
And
okay.
I'm not the only one.
Let's stop the video, that one.
If you can all mute your mics, please. Robbie, if you can stay on. You can choose to leave your video on or not, that's not a problem. Robbie, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. How me?
Fantastic, excellent. Okay, welcome everybody. Sorry about those technical issues. So yeah, welcome to Develops, Ask the Expert. Today we're going to go through the in-service inspection and testing of electrical and basically the new PAT really. So my name is James Evans. I'm the Key Account Manager for Estates and Facilities. We've had some fantastic interest in this webinar, so we hope you enjoy it. We've had a few questions that have come over to us already. If you do have any throughout, please pop one in the chat and I'll try and get through as many as I can throughout when we're looking at the questions. But if not, we'll endeavour to answer them after the event. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for everyone coming. And so we're just looking at who we are. So who are Develop? I'll then introduce Robbie, our presenter, who's our senior trainer, and then he'll go into some of the details within that. So Develop, if you're not aware of us, we're one of the UK's leading accredited training providers of compliance, technical and safety training. We work with a lot of large companies across the UK within estates and facilities, healthcare, utilities and construction. And we're actually part of a large group called the JTL Group, who purchased us around 2 years ago now. So Robbie, do you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. I'm Robbie Macdonald. I'm one of Develop's senior trainers. I basically develop the courses and deliver a lot of electrical and mechanical courses as well. So I'm here, there, everywhere at the minute because we're still trying to catch up. My background is joined the Royal Navy when I was 16, stayed there till I was 41, left the Navy, got a job in various places, foundries, ice cream factories, even became the site engineer of a biogas site. So I've been around the block a few times. I remember my first days of in-service inspection and testing, used to carry around a metronome, a screaming yellow handbag. We used to test with that, and then over the years, picked up all the other bits of equipment and that. So that's about me in a nutshell.
Okay. So Robbie, I'm going to move on to the first slide if you want to start talking about the changes.
Okie dokie. Right, a few weeks ago, my boss told me about this, and the first thing he said was, "We need a tagline to deliver it." And I went, "Pat's left the building." For how many years has it been referred to as Pat? Too many, really, because if you think about it, is your fridge portable? Do you pick it up and move it around? I can't do it with mine. So it should really be called in-service inspection and testing of electrical equipment, which is the correct title. It is a well-established practice. We've been doing it for years and years. So they're not saying stop doing it. They've just changed a few of the ways we are doing it nowadays. Next slide, please. Right. What's the difference between the 5th and 4th Code of Practice? The 5th is a lot more clearer. It's a lot easier to use and a lot more user-friendly. Again, it reinforces the need that everything should be tested and does refer back to the electricity work regulations and everything. What it has done is, in the good old days, there used to be a recommended chart for you to follow to see how often you should test things. That's changed now. It's a lot more risk assessment based, which, to be honest, makes a lot more sense. There is a new section, section 3, which is all the legalities. That's basically come out of, in the old days, they had some in the main body and then the rest as an appendix. they've merged it into one, which again makes it a lot clearer for people trying to understand the code of practice. Right, like I've said, now it says everything should be checked, which does actually lead to some interesting questions. For example, let's say you've got a hand dryer in your toilet. What regime does it come under? It used to be defined as being fixed because it was attached to the wall. However, because it's attached to a fuse connection unit, is it part of the installation? I'd love to give you an answer, but whichever maintenance routine it comes under, the duty holder has to decide now. So it can come under either. Like I say, they want every piece of equipment covered. Section 4 does give you items that are covered, which is basically pretty much anything apart from specialist medical equipment nowadays. And we don't call anything portable anymore. It's not portable. It's class 1, it's class 2, it's class 2 with functional earthing. So there has been quite a few changes here and there. Next slide, please. Nowadays, or if you think about an office scenario, who's the person using the equipment? The user. They should be taught on how to spot if something is dangerous. They're going to be using it every day. You might not be walking around the office every day or visiting certain areas every day. They have included a poster, which would be useful to put up in like staff rooms, kitchens and things, so people can look at it and then think, oh, hang on, I ran over my computer cable the other day, I've nicked the wire. Oh, looking at that poster, it shouldn't be like that. Like I've said, they've stopped saying you will inspect a handheld grinder on a building site once a week, and they've based it on a risk assessment. There is example risk assessments, because remember, it's not just what equipment, it's where is the equipment, who is using the equipment. So there is quite a lot to consider when you look at doing a risk assessment on these types of equipment and everything. Next slide, please. This is a change that you are going to see a lot more of in the future. Traditionally, equipment's been classed as self, PELV, and functional extra low voltage. It's slowly going to be replaced with different terms. And the ES actually stands for energy source. It started off in Europe in the manufacturing process. So quite soon you'll start to see things coming through with this equipment is ES1, ES2. Fundamentally, it isn't much different. However, be aware you'll start to see a lot more equipment with energy source rather than PELV, on nowadays. And there is a lot of information on it. Right, remember we used to have hard and soft tests on the earths? It's gone. It's now called low current and high current tests. What's the difference? Oh, let's see. On the hard test, it used to say up to 26 amps. It now says up to 25 amps. So fundamentally, if you've got the same equipment you had 2 years ago, it's not going to make a massive difference in the grand scheme of things. There is a few more additions, as in the class 2 functional earth. So things like my the lead for my laptop, that's class 2 with a functional earth. And again, it's just for functional earths, you'll have to test them slightly different. There is a few bits on 13 amp plugs and everything. And a whole new appendix they've introduced is equipment racks. And again, it's based on a risk assessment. How often do people go in there and change things? Is it protected by RCDs? And the biggest and bestest thing they've done in years, and it makes this course very easy to teach. They've included a lot about basic electrics. So you've got Ohm's law, you've got the power triangles. It gives you all the formulas you need. So that to me is probably one of the biggest improvements I've seen in a code of practice in many years. And it's definitely very handy.
Okay, so we're into some questions now that have come through. So again, apologies if some of you missed the start or had some sound issues, but if you want to get in the chat option and pop your question in there, if you do have one, please do that, and I'll start working through those so Robbie can answer. So one of the questions we had come through was, I'm a landlord of a number of properties. What do I need to be doing moving forward?
Right. The long and the short of it is, if your tenant changes, all your equipment's classed as new. So it will have to be retested every time you change your tenant. Then moving forward, you'll have to either do the risk assessment yourself or get a company in to do the risk assessment, so you can see how often everything will have to be tested. And that doesn't matter if you're a private landlord. All the housing acts have changed to incorporate this. So it'll be almost like you're working in an office. So I hope that helps, Chris.
Okay, Robbie, I've just had someone come through with a question saying, what code of practice does this come under?
It comes under, and apologies, this is a book I trained from, the In-Service Inspection and Testing of Electrical Equipment, 5th edition. The courses, the very first course you could have done on it would have been the end of January, but we're now on the 5th edition of the Code of Practice.
And does that cover across the whole of the UK?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, every housing act, so the English, the Welsh, and the Scottish as well, they're all in the book now.
Okay.
So yeah, it does cover the full UK now.
Thank you. Let's look at the next question that we had come through. What maintenance regime should hand drying a toilet be included under? So you did allude to but if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, right. So you've got a hand dryer in the toilet. Usually it'll be attached to a fuse connection unit. When you look at the actual inspection of it, you could bring it under the Code of Practice, providing you guys are competent enough to be able to carry out a safe isolation and do the testing from the fuse connection unit. Or you could say only needs testing once every 5 years. So I'll put it under my fixed wiring inspections.
There's Dome.
Okay.
The choice is yours, but as long as it comes under a maintenance routine, you're covered.
Okay. Again, we've just had someone come through saying, so does this mean that the previous inspection regimes are now, I think that means now out of date, and the system needs to be based on a risk assessment?
Pretty much that's what they're saying. But if you're comparing it to the table in the 4th Code of Practice, again, that said, you may have to increase or decrease the frequency. I'm trying to think of a good example. A radio. If you've got a radio sat in an office, you'd probably be looking at doing a full test and inspection once every, well, if it was class 1, i.e. you had a metal case, you'd probably be looking at testing that annually. If you have a radio that's outside on a building site, getting kicked from pillar to post and nobody giving it any love and affection and that, you might drop that testing right back. If it keeps continually getting damaged and put out of service, you might even think, well, I've tested it every month and every month it's broken. Is it the right piece of equipment?
Okay.
You'll have to basically do another little risk assessment and work out, has it ever been damaged on the old maintenance regime? No. Do I need to change anything? No. Or you might even look at it and go, I've had this piece of equipment for 7 years, not a single fault. Should I decrease the amount of time I'm looking at it? Sorry, increase the amount of time I'm actually looking at the equipment.
Okay, thank you, Robbie. Let's move on to the next question that's come through. How often would we have to inspect a handheld grinder on a building site?
The user should pretty much be doing it every time they use it. However, do your initial risk assessment and say, I will give it a formal visual inspection every 2 weeks, for example. So you've done it every 2 weeks for 3 months. Not a problem with it, not a fault on it. Okay, I'll extend it out. But again, it is based on your risk assessment. Is it being damaged? Is it being used properly? But be very careful with handheld equipment, especially with if it's class 1 with a metal case, because they are the most dangerous pieces of equipment.
Okay, thank you. Can my handyman be trained to undertake in-service and inspection of electrical equipment?
Okay, we deliver the Sitting Guilds qualification, and the Sitting Guilds qualification says this is a course for experienced electricians.
It's not included.
That doesn't mean you have to be an electrician to do the course. And when I developed this course, I realized over the years we've had a lot of people who had basically seen someone plugging something into a tester, pressing the button, writing something down and saying, yeah, it's safe. I'd say yes. However, the course is actually the equivalent of a load grade A level in 2 days. The actual code of practice makes it a lot easier to teach this, but there is quite a lot of maths involved. So if you're considering sending your handyman on the course, think, has he got basic maths? Another part about our course now is it's interactive. People coming on the course get a handout with loads of bits for them to fill in. It's not your usual, I'll talk at you for 2 days and then expect you to sit an exam. They're learning as soon as they come on. They're using the book to find the information to fill out their workbook. So yes, they can be, is the answer, but bear in mind it is quite maths intensive on the course.
Okay, thanks, Robbie. We've had another question come through. So how does this affect us in gasworks? We have a few auditors who are trained to pat testing. Do they now need to do anything differently?
No, if they've got the old 2377 qualifications, no, nothing fundamental on the testing has changed really. It's just they'll have to redefine what the equipment classifications are and things.
Would you recommend anyone refresh on the course?
Like I say, fundamentally, the course hasn't changed. However, if they read the new code of practice and think, oh, I'm not quite sure about things, then yeah, definitely come back back through the course.
Okay. So another question here. What's the best equipment to carry out the tests?
Wow. You can use everything from a very simple low resistance and insulation resistance tester, right the way through to something that you'll probably spend the next year setting up. But from then on, you'll just have to zap a barcode on a plug and it'll know what it's testing and how it's testing it. I base it more on the person carrying out the test. Some people will pass the course and have no issues doing a simple, what we call stop no go test. So you put a plug in the tester, press a button, it'll do 3 tests, say pass, pass, pass. That's a good tick off. If you have got experienced electricians, they may want something where it'll give them a numbered result and then they interpret it. So they'll work out the length of the cable and all the rest of it. So it's very much on who's doing the testing and what equipment you personally want to use.
Okay, I've got a question about how long the course is. We'll come on to that shortly. But when did the guidance change, Robbie?
I believe it came out last November, and then the courses changed in January. It doesn't actually give me a date on the book, but yeah, I can definitely remember the actual Code of Practice coming out late last year, and then City and Guilds changed the courses from February to the new 237777.
Okay. I've got a question on labelling. With the label change, not many PAT companies are selling the new style label, i.e. no re-T-test date to be shown on it. Is this taking a while to drip down to suppliers? What are your thoughts on that, Robbie?
If you look at the 4th edition, that said don't have a retest date on, for the simple reason I could have my laptop here, which is perfectly acceptable. I say it needs re-looking at in 2 years. What about if I change job, take my laptop to building sites and things, or places where the environment changes? That isn't a recent change, but I can understand entirely where you are coming from. That hasn't been a requirement for years. Hopefully, people who produce the PAT labels and that'll start catching on, and eventually it'll catch up, but you shouldn't have had a retest date on anything for about the last 6 years, really.
Yeah. Okay, so someone's just said it's no longer being called PAT. If so, what's it changing to? That's shown on the next slide. So it's actually called in-service inspection and testing of the electrical equipment now. And this then goes back to another question of someone asking how long the course is. So we've got a couple of dates here, courses that are planned in to run already. They're 2-day courses. We potentially will be planning more in. If you've got a requirement or you've got a number of people that you want to put through it, please get in touch and we can look at running a bespoke course for you and possibly on site, which is more convenient for yourself. As you can see there, the course is £290 plus VAT per person. If anyone's got any more questions, if you want to get them in the next couple of minutes, that would be really appreciated. One's just come through. Someone's asking if the course will be available in Lithgow. If we've got the right numbers up there and it makes it cost efficient for us to travel up there, we would do that. But obviously it depends on filling a course and making it available to everyone. Robbie, have you got anything else to add to that?
No. Well, the only thing I can say, reference the courses, it's a lot more interactive. We don't drip feed people information and expect them to learn from that now. We encourage them to join in with the course. The first few I've done have been very well received, and the pass rate from the 4th to the 5th has actually gone up about 10%. So it is a much better course educationally as well.
Someone's just asked, is the York Centre the Burnhall site? Yes, it is. We're still in the same site there for that course. So we're about at the end of that webinar. As you can see there, if you've got any questions or you need to speak about any other courses, or you want a bit more information on that new course, please let me know. There's also information on the next slide for other contacts. I've just had another question come through, so let's have enough. Oh, someone's dropping off, so that's fine. So thank you for everyone that's joined today. We will be sending this presentation out, so anyone that's missed the sort of the first part of it, I know we had a few technical issues, but it will be sent out to everyone that's registered for the webinar. So I hope you found it informative, and thank you for attending. Bye-bye.
Robert.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Robert?
Yeah.
My name's John Bromwell. Right, I've been listening to what you've been saying. I'd like to make a couple of comments, if I may.
Certainly.
I'm a chartered electrical engineer and was involved with the electricity work regs when they came in 1989. One of the things which, and I'm a member of the IET and do a lot of work for the IET as well. One of the things which happened in 89, and when in your further presentations, it might be nice to let people know, the electricity work regs said that everything shall be safe, because that's where it comes from, right? And then all these people started manufacturing equipment to test equipment for pack testing, as we know, right? And what happened was every company tested everything every year. And obviously this was a ridiculous situation that happened. And I was involved extensively for the company I used to work for. And the company I used to work for was Pilkington Glass, the glass manufacturers. I actually was the chief electrical engineer for them. And we got involved quite extensively with the HSE saying, look, this is a ridiculous situation. And their comments at the time were, providing you've got the information to demonstrate that you've done everything in your power to make sure that equipment's safe, that's what we're after. Now, you're quite right. Let's take a piece of IT equipment, right? If you've got records after you've tested it for 4 years saying, look, I ain't testing this every year, it's ridiculous. And that's where they were going. And I'm pleased to see what's happened now is it's all been based upon risk assessment, because some of my clients, basically, they'll say to me, how often do we need to test it? And I've been saying, I've ignored the IET code because as a chartered engineer, I can do what I want. It's me going to jail. I have to defend my position, right? So I'm pleased actually that the IET have now issued this and pointing out to lots of people that it's all based upon risk assessment. And you're quite right. If you take a welding shop or a fettling shop in a factory and you've got portable equipment throwing around the ground, grinders and all the rest of it, we might be checking those. Well, they should be checked every time before they're used, all the time. They should also be checked probably on a periodic inspection. I might put it as 3 months. And if I'm getting experiences of damage to leads and plug tops and all the rest of it, it might go down to a month or it might go to a weekly. So I'm pleased that what you're doing now to try and get this message over to, you know, the people like landlords and people like that, because they don't even believe that they should do anything, right? So I'm quite pleased that you're tackling it this way. But I'd like you to, in your other presentations, to say, look, you need to understand the history of this. The electricity work rates came in 89 after we got rid of the old Factory Act special regulations. And I run courses on that and give the history for my clients, right? But it's all to do with history. It's been risk assessment, really, from the HSE's point of view since day one. But it's taken a long time for, I should say, my institute to get round to following into line is really what happens. Because I have many safety officers that my clients ring me and say, John, how often should we be testing this? And I said, well, get the IET book and read that and see what that says. I said, if you want a professional opinion, and that's what you keep me as a responsible electrical engineer for the company, I'll give you what my professional opinion is. So I'm pleased that we are where we are. I enjoyed listening to you. I know we had some technical issues at the beginning, right? I've actually, you have my email address. It's jbconsultants@mail.com. But if I can be of any help to you as a company, were some of the history of what's gone on with this. Because going back to 1992, we had a serious accident at Pilkington's where we nearly killed the process worker. And this was all to do with IP2X, right? Whereby we had a continuous process business. How can we carry on running a continuous process following the electricity work regs, and in particular regulation 14, which is work on on-air live conductors. And that's the one which most companies get prosecuted on. I've been to many companies, many managing directors, people like that who are being prosecuted by the HSE. And I only learned the hard way because we nearly killed somebody in 92, and it was in Birmingham. And at that point, the HSE were breathing down my particular neck and the company's neck. Fortunately, we didn't get prosecuted. We did a lot of work to make sure we passed the message on to other people. And I've actually visited lots of companies, and I get called to when people have had an accident, and usually, well, what do we need to do? Well, first of all, you need to have competent people to work on systems, and all this old equipment needs something doing about it. You know, you should have been replacing it. And there are still companies today that are in that situation. And I'm pleased to say I've trained 2 of the senior electrical inspectors for the HSE, because they're graduates from here at Pilkington's, and I'm still in touch with them. So I do hear what's going on. So, but I enjoyed it, but I just thought I wanted to make a comment to you. So it would, I think it would help you with a bit of history to people so they understand. Was that useful, Robert?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a history kind of guy myself, so I always go back and look whenever I start a course. I'm like, where did it start from? I mean, when I do an 18th edition, I literally start edition 1, 4 pages long, showed you how to twist bits of wire together and put insulation on it. We've come a bit away since then, like. But thank you very much, John.
Yeah, thanks for that, John. It's really good feedback. Thank you. So I hope everyone's enjoyed that. We haven't had any more questions come through, but like I said, if you do have anything else, please get in touch. My details and Robbie's details are on the screen at the minute. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Well, James, of course, I'm always a gate crasher at most things, so there's nothing new. Even at the conference in London, I'm speaking in December on the Grenfell situation and what's happening after that. So anyway, good luck to you all, and keep yourself safe.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.